What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Baseball Fanatic 584. We usually do this on Mondays, but we do it on Fridays because we couldn't do it. We couldn't get it done on Monday night. So we're gonna do it today. Keep the episodes consistent. We're gonna move on to another field that we're gonna talk about that I've been to. I've been to this field in 2008. It was an epic adventure to get to this field. I did not get a chance to spend as much time in the town as I would like to. I went back years later to finally check it out. But during this time, it was literally getting to the game and then getting to the airport and going home. And this town is the town of Denver, home of the Colorado Rockies and Coors Field. Um, Beautiful stadium, absolute beautiful. It was almost 16 years ago this week. Yeah, I went there. It was a little more than 16 years ago. It was the first week of July. I went there back in 2008, part of a road trip in which involved me flying to Austin, Texas, driving to Houston for a Sox Houston game, followed by driving to Dallas the next day up to Arlington for a Rangers game. It was supposed to involve me on Monday dropping my rental car off in Austin and then taking a bus throughout the entire day to Colorado and getting dropped off in Colorado in the morning, sightseeing and going to the game, and then somehow getting to the airport to fly a red eye back to New York, in which I'd get there and then take a bus to Boston. It was a very complex trip that we're going to do. It was very complex. And I was by myself. First trip actually I took by myself of this magnitude, too. So it was a little sketchy. So I flew out to Austin. That went fine. I got to Houston, no problem at all. And this is my first time doing this, so my ability to navigate and what do you call it? Navigate and to figure out what the hell I'm doing, um, was very, very sterile. I did not know what I was doing. It was new to me. But all I remember is I was supposed to take that bus ride, and I went from Austin back to Dallas to connect to a bus to go to Colorado. And I was so sketched out in that bus station. It was around like I think it was around like noon. No, it had to be later than that. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I can't take this bus ride, but I really want to go to Denver. I need to go to Denver. That's where my flight's leaving me from. So I remember I just rented a car and I drove. The goal was to drive as far as I could until I was tired and sleep a little and then continue going. I had like a 12-hour drive ahead of me. And the game I had to be at the game. The game was at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, so I was going to gain an hour in the drive. And I remember I took a train to the Dallas Fort Worth airport. I got a rental car and I drove through the night through Oklahoma. I remember stopping at an Applebee's at one point just to charge my phone. I sat at the bar for like an hour, like for fact, I felt like an hour. It was like probably like 15 minutes. No one came up to me. I was like, "What the hell's going on here? I just need some dinner." And then I remember I continued going on the ride, and I stopped at a rest area in Kansas, and I took a nap for a couple hours, and then continued through Nebraska, and then finally into Colorado, which eventually led me to Denver. And I got to Coors Field probably like at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I had about an hour to get in there. So I got in there, um, had a few beers, watched the game, took some pictures, sightseed, and here's the story. So a little information about good old Coors Field. Um, it opened officially in 1995, even though the Rockies were their first season was 93. They played 2 years at the Mile High Stadium. Um, until the stadium was built. So Coors Field was the first new stadium added in a 6-year period in which Denver sports venues were upgraded, along with um, the Pepsi Center, Mile High Stadium. Um, it was also the first baseball only park in the National League since the Dodger Stadium was built in 1962. Isn't that crazy? So when you think about it, Dodger Stadium was a baseball only park, but all the other teams that had built stadiums in the National League between 62 and 92, so that's 30 years, were all multi-use stadiums. And it makes sense. There were all those concrete donuts, right? Think of St. Louis, think of Pittsburgh, think of Philly, right? What did I say? They say St. Louis? Yeah, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Philly. Um, all Milwaukee played a Memorial that had played multiple sports in. But that stadium might not have been built. I'm thinking about all stadiums built in Cincinnati. For example, these were all multi-use stadiums in the National League. Never had a baseball only until Coors Field was built. Coors Fields are a great location. Downtown Denver. It's at the very end of this main stretch. It's easily accessible from downtown. If you're staying in any hotels, there's a ton of breweries all around the stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. I mean, the architectural is like to the T. All the architecture, the buildings around it are awesome. There was this really cool restaurant that was right next to the stadium that I went into. This is not when I went to the game. This is another time I was in Colorado, but there was Rockies weren't playing that game. They were away, but the away team was coming in that night. And I remember walking to the restaurant. They had this whole area taped off wherever the away team coming in was, which was pretty cool. Um, so it's more facts about the stadium. It cost $30 million. Be six, yes, 30, $300 million. Would have been $600 million these days. It was another HOK Sports. We know those. I believe they did uh, Baltimore and um, San Francisco, and they're very similar. And they're kind of the iron and the brick designs and stuff. Really cool. This one's very, very iconic. It's what they call it, the jewel box shape, right? Um Coors Field hosted the 1998 All-Star game and the 2021 All-Star game. Let's see. Had the 2006 Stadium Series hockey game there. It's a stadium. What's going on? Very popular guy here. Stadium. It's great. It's a lot of iconic stuff in this stadium too. Let's see. The center field bleachers section is named a rock pile during the 1993-1994 season when the team played at Mile High, which was a hybrid baseball stadium venue. The rock pile was located next to the self stands, which were dead center field and were very distant from home plate. The same design was incorporated into Coors Field, so it was kind of like a throwback to the old their roots, the first stadium the Rockies ever played in too. Now I remember Rockies did make it to a World Series in 2008, and they've been a playoff team multiple times. So they're not a terrible team. Um, and Todd Helton just made it to the Hall of Fame. He was a lifetime Rocky player too. I thoroughly enjoyed Denver. Um, you know, politics aside, I think it's a good city. It's a fun city to go to. I love breweries. It's awesome. The baseball stadium just adds on to that extra coolness to it. It's named Coors Field, right? So it's beer all about it, right? Um, and Coors did have the has the naming rights. So they have the name until 2047, right? So that's a long time. It's another 20 something years, right? So that's pretty cool. Let's see. It looks like they built the Blue Moon Brewery at the Sandlot. It looks like a microbrew restaurant that's attached to or near the stadium. The rock pile in center field, as we talked about, is really cool. They have a little garden out there. It's very well landscaped. The architecture is really cool. One of the cool iconic parts of the stadium is the purple seats at exactly 1 mile high above sea level. So you go up to the upper deck, and it's like the 12th or 13th row, and you see just this line of purple seats that go around, and that's exactly 1 mile above sea level, which is really cool. On September 17th, 1996, Nomo of the Dodgers threw his first of two no hitters. Um, let's see. Some iconic things. 2005 Rockies beat the San Diego Padres. These are all some cool, interesting facts. They were very concerned about putting a baseball team in Denver just for the fact that they didn't realize or didn't understand that if the altitude would have affected the way the ball is being hit, and it would actually travel further because the air density is a lot less being so high up in the air. And it they've solved this problem, I believe, by putting balls in um like a humidor, kind of like you do with a cigar, and I guess it keeps it at sea level pressure for the game. I don't know how well it works. I don't know if this myth has ever been busted or not, but I'll be very curious to see if this is if there's any research or any scientific methods done, knowing if you put a ball in the humidor and if it's going to go less further than it would if it wasn't because of the altitude. I don't know. Something to think about. Coors Field was featured in The Fan, starring Robert De Niro, Wesley Snipes. The ballpark was also featured in 2 episodes of South Park, of course. Um, let's see. First game I ever played there was against the Mets, 1995, and the Mets and the Colorado Rockies beat the Mets 11-9 in 14 innings. So the first game was an extra inning game too. There's a lot of cool facts about the stadium. Um, definitely a must see. It's top, definitely top 10 in my book of stadiums I've been to. All 35 stadiums I've been to. Definitely top 10. Um, could be top five. Could be. It's very close. You know, my top five is very specific because it involves aesthetics. It also still has history, and stuff like that. Like so, that's why Wrigley and Fenway are in there. Aesthetically, San Francisco and Baltimore are in there. As for that fifth seat, um, oh God, I mean it's tough. It's a torn between Dodger Stadium, Coors Field, the beautiful iconic Busch Stadium, PNC Park is up there. I mean, there's so many beautiful stadiums. That fifth spot is very difficult, but an argument, I would say that Coors Field does have a pretty good shot of being that fifth, and not no particular order is any even though people always criticize me about putting Fenway and Wrigley in that top five tier because it dumps. And I mean, it's not just about what they look like and what they feel. It's more aesthetics and how baseball has played there and how it lives on, after it's built. Like for example, the stadium was built 30 years ago, but it still has the aesthetics and still has the eye pleasing and fan feel and all this baseball eroticness, if you will, if you want to use some erotic words to it. So it's a great stadium, and you should definitely check it out if you're in the Colorado area. Um, some other fun facts about it. It's like I said, it's downtown. You can get to it if you stay in downtown in a hotel. Very easy. But breweries around it. I just mentioned that. Let's see. It's just a bunch of fun facts about this. Statistic wise, field dimensions and whatnot. Well, it holds 50,000 people, including the standing room. Let's see. Left field's 347 feet. Uh, right field is 350 feet. Center field's 415 feet. It's probably one of the furthest center fields in baseball that I think of. I'm not sure if that's an actual fact. You could check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure if it's not the furthest center field, it's definitely close to it. And I think they did it purposely because with the idea that the balls will travel further, so that makes it more of a, um, in a sense, it's a large field, so it's more of a, it's a tough situation because it's such a large field that it does play into being a pitcher's park, but because of the ball traveling further and lower air pressure, it does make it a hitter's park too. So I guess they compensated for that distance by pushing the balls out in the outfield a little bit more to make it work, right? That makes sense, right? But yeah, I remember leaving this game and hightailing it to Denver Airport. I had a 12 a.m. flight from Denver Airport to New York City. I remember landing in New York City and trying to figure out how I'm getting from JFK Airport to Midtown to jump on a bus at the Port Authority, and yeah, I take like this like shuttle that goes from the airport to like the train station, and then the train station. I remember I just had this like carry on luggage. I'm all by myself. Like I never done any of this stuff before, right? I've been in New York City, obviously, but I'd never been alone in New York City. That's coming to lie. A couple times I was alone there when I was dating a lady who lived in Connecticut. I would go in through New York sometimes, but anyway, never the fact. Um, it was still an adventure. It was still a fun trip. I mean, it was 5 days alone with just myself, and that started to bug a little bit. Those were my At that point I had seen four stadiums. So I had seen Fenway, Camden, uh Dolphin Stadium, and Shea Stadium. So I was five in at that point. Um I actually seen Yankee Stadium too that year. So Oh, and actually, no. I'm sorry. That was 2008. So I had already seen a good amount because I did my big road trip in 2007. So this was about mid in the middle for the stadiums, right? So, this was probably like Stadium 12 or 13. I only got to see back then. So I do have a. I would like to, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna pull it off, but if it does, it's probably gonna be a solo trip by myself to go to Sacramento, California, next year to go see the Red Sox play the A's at the temporary stadium in Sacramento because technically would be considered a baseball stadium, and I can add that to my list of a stadium. Um, I consider it like any stadium that plays a baseball game that counts, right? So, I guess you could say any regular season game, at any particular field counts as a stadium on my list. So this would be a stadium, even though this is a AAA park. It's also going to be a major league park for 2 years. So I will count that. Um, just as I would if like there was an exhibition game played anywhere else. And I really gotta get better at this because I dropped the ball on the Birmingham game this year. And allegedly there is going to be a Bristol Motor Speedway game with the Braves and Rangers. So if that happens, we'll totally going to be there because then I'd be able to see football and baseball in a race car track and still haven't seen a race for trees yet. So that would be really, really cool if we can do that down. But I appreciate you guys for watching all these videos, these little quickies. I know they're only like 16 minutes long, but I like to share my stories at these stadiums, give you some facts about it, and see what you guys think of these stadiums as well, because I know a lot of you out there have been to these places, and I'm just curious what your perspective and your thoughts are on all these places. And it's also helping me with my book that I'm in the process of writing about all my adventures to all these stadiums, which now at 40 years old is a bucket list item to get done. So I will be working on this thing and doing these little mini podcasts that are actually helping me a lot to get my mind together and get on page for everything. So I appreciate you guys for watching and commenting, on TikTok, YouTube, and all those aspects, and subscribing and whatnot. So thank you guys again, and we'll be back probably on Monday. We'll be back to our regular schedule, talk about another stadium. I think at this point we're like 6 stadiums in, so we still got about 30 left. So, and then we're gonna hit some baseball historical park places like Louisville Slugger Museum, Cooperstown, stuff like that. Babe Ruth's house, right? So we'll be talking about that stuff as we go on with these episodes. So we'll never run out of stuff. And there's plenty. I've been to 35 minor league parks too, so we could throw those battle areas in there too. Those are a little less memorable because there's a little less to them, but we'll get to those too. We'll talk about those. So thank you guys for watching, and leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Give me a big thumbs up. That helps the algorithm, and we'll see you guys soon. So have a nice weekend. Bye.